Hey, Eric.
Talk to me.
What do you know about the moon? Big thing in the sky.
What do I know about the moon?
Just blanket.
Right, what don't I know about them? I'm a big moon guy. You know, I feel like this is the ultimate softball.
There are people who are big moon guys. There are people
I'm
who
one of them.
Big thing in the sky.
Yeah.
It's a big rock in the sky. We've been there once, twice. Once? We've been there once. Not a lot
Once,
up
twice, there. 3 times the moon, lady. I think we're trying to go back. Can I tell you this? I love one of my favorite families of conspiracy theories is the moon landing, is the whole that the moon landing was a hoax. And they have some good points. We haven't been back.
Why? What's up there?
It's so close. Why? It's a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah, we just did it to say that we did it. It is like...
Yeah, but put up a Denny's or something. Get a little restaurant.
Eric, there is no oxygen. There's no... We have no infrastructure for a Denny's. Eric, we can't just put a fucking Denny's anywhere you want.
Look, this is something we're never going to agree on.
Oh, man, we are, well, I was trying to get us into the blood moon. That's a thing that's happening tonight. But
you can't just be talking about the moon in front of me and expect me not to bite hook, line, and sinker.
And then we just go straight. Anytime we bring up the moon, it's this fucking moon Denny's. I'm telling you, Eric. Yeah. I'm looking at Eric's webcam. He's got fucking charts behind him.
Think of the specials, the lunar-themed Denny's specials.
Oh, man. It's Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here. Stay with us. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Brian and Eric Don't Belong Here. Another night into the weird and the macabre and the spooky. I'm one of your hosts, Brian, here as always with the lunar colleague, Eric. Eric, what's going on, man?
We're talking about the moon. I'm excited for Moon Knight. Not the series on Netflix, Moon Knight. I mean this tonight, our Moon Knight.
That's Disney Plus. I think we'll actually get sued if we imply that.
It's all one streaming conglomerate. That's my media conspiracy theory. All of the streaming services are just owned by one shadowy cabal.
Is it shadowy or is it just Disney? Because if they're not owned by Disney, they will be owned by Disney.
I think it's the latter. I think you're right.
So Eric, this is of course our spooky fuck around podcast. We didn't have anything to talk about all day. We knew we were recording tonight, and I said I don't have anything to talk about, and you went great.
Yeah, I did not pick up that alley-oop at all. You alley-ooped it, and I just spiked it into a garbage can.
But I like that. I'm into that. And then about, I don't know, I want to say less than a half hour before we went live, you were like, oh, right, the blood moon is tonight. We can talk about the blood moon. And so we're going to talk about the blood moon.
It's debatable if we'll even get to the blood moon.
Of course, obviously. That's it. It's let's see. It's Tuesday, November the 8th when we're recording this. It'll go live tomorrow. It's election night, 2022. I don't want to get too into it because it's a bummer. It's just
what are we voting on tonight? Who's coming in there? The congressman, the senators?
I think it's everything that's not the president.
All of it? That seems like a lot in one night. They should spread that out.
They should spread that out a little more. There should be a couple of election nights.
Yeah. It's too much.
It's like, yeah, it's all the elections are happening, and it's either going to be bad or like a different kind of bad.
I can't. We were talking before the show that we're sort of not in any kind of way urging political violence, but it would be, there is that urge to sort of see the apocalypse or some kind of Mad Max future of like a civil war, kind of just like it all, you just feel it all come loose. Sort of.
We're building to something, and I'm getting a little tired of being in the pressure cooker part, and I'm just like, what's going to happen?
Like the slow part of the roller coaster, but just forever.
Right. I'm kind of ready to just let whatever's going to happen, and then let's get on the other side of it. God, don't put... I don't want to... Keep in mind, I'm going to hide the entire time. This is not... Don't put me on a list.
I've got some spots. I'm ready to frog, baby. PH frogging it.
That's going to be our frogging. Frogging, of course, if you didn't listen to our frogging episode, which you should go back and do, it's certainly more cohesive than this one's gonna be. It's when you live in somebody's home without their knowledge, which I think we could pull off great, especially during an American Civil War situation.
We'd be great froggers. I think my last-ditch effort move as a frogger would be to have a lampshade that I just put on my head so I pretend to be a lamp if I'm about to be found.
I bet you could pull that off one time.
Did I tell you the story? I actually fooled my very young niece and nephew with that.
No.
We were playing hide and go seek.
Kids
They're
are
like
dumb.
They're so dumb. They're like 2 and 3 years old, and we were playing hide and seek, and I just stood in the corner with a lampshade on my head. They didn't know what to do.
Do you think they genuinely didn't know what to do, or do you think there was an element of like, he needs this?
I think they felt bad for me. Yeah, I think they're very intuitive.
I think that's the move. So, like, my child is incoming.
Oh man, so crazy.
My
How are we
wife,
feeling about that?
Both terrified, especially on election night. Not feeling great. About bringing
we'll be
human.
Fine,
but
it'll be like a Robinson Crusoe situation.
Maybe my move though is I spend her entire life in like with a lampshade on my head, standing in corners.
Yeah.
And so that when she's like, "Oh man, my dad like was never around," I'm like, "No, I've been here the whole time."
It's like that God parable in the Footsteps in the Sand. Except you're just Lamp Daddy.
I'm Lamp Dad. Hello, it's me, your Lamp Father.
It's me. When you thought you were alone, I was there.
Make no mistake. Your mother left me because all I did was stand around with a lampshade on my head going, "No, trust me, it's going to be funny in like 20 years.
Yeah. Because she couldn't handle the commitment to the bit. And good riddance.
Good riddance. So... I don't know who this new guy is she's shacking up with, but I'm Lamp Dad.
Yeah, is he Lamp Dad? No. Imagine in this scenario, new guy is also does the lamp thing.
Oh, a double lamp thing.
She can't get away from Lamp Guy.
It's all over. It's spreading. It's going to be a thing. I'm telling you. Everyone expecting a child, trend. Do the lamp thing.
Do the lamp deal. Yeah, that's the move. I think we're onto something. Okay, so sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I refuse to get to the blood moon.
Yeah, no. It's too soon. We just started. We're just getting warmed up here.
Right.
I feel like our podcast is actually a perfect allegory for the times we live in of just like a slow build. You're not sure not sure if you're going to get there, when you're going to get there. A lot of open loops, a lot of promising openings, but
right.
Really
no, the blood moon could be an interesting thing, and maybe we'll get to it, or these two chuckle fucks will just keep fucking dicking around.
I like that option.
I also like that option. Okay, seriously though. I guess we can get started. So the blood moon, I don't actually know anything about it. We both agreed we'd cold research it. I have opened up a couple of tabs, but
that is my favorite phrase of this show. Can I say, I do think that's maybe when we're at our best. It's just we're live researching.
We're live researching. We don't know shit about it's the investigate. So a lot of podcasts will go and do their research and then present that research to you. We're doing the research live. So we're giving you an insight into paranormal and strange research.
Sausage being made. It's happening now.
There you go. That's our angle. That's our angle, Eric.
Yeah.
So basically, the blood moon, of course, is just a lunar eclipse, right? What actually is eclipsing? What's getting in front of what's getting in front of the moon that's going to create the spooky red glow?
Yeah, I don't know. There's two kinds of there's a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse.
Which you can't look at the solar eclipse. Do you remember that time?
Lord knows I've tried.
Do you remember that time our entire department just left work and went to a bar to watch the solar eclipse?
Yeah, that was cool.
Because we had a silly pretend job.
Yeah, you could just do things like for astrological or astronomical events. You could just go outside. That was kind of crazy, though. I do remember that.
Yeah. People had glasses. I will say, I looked at it. It was fine. I didn't have glasses.
I think here's the thing. I don't think there's anything special about looking at the sun during an eclipse. I think it's more just that people keep looking at it for too long.
You're not supposed to look at the sun too long anyway.
Yeah, ever. You ever want to really.
Don't take this as medical advice. I'm not looking up whether
Do you think people must have gone blind in the world from looking at the sun too long, right?
I mean, do we look that up right now?
I think so.
People gone blind eclipse. Okay, so I have here exposing your eyes to the sun without proper eye protection during a solar eclipse can cause, quote, eclipse blindness or retinal burns, also known as solar retinopathy. This exposure to the light can cause damage or even destroy cells in the retina that transmits what you see to the brain. But why? Why is that? I have here from livescience.com, the headline reads, has anyone ever gone blind from staring at a solar eclipse? So I'm reading directly though it seems like an old wives' tale. There have been more than 100 documented cases of serious and permanent eye damage that was due to people staring too long at a solar eclipse. What is it about the eclipse that makes it that it almost is it the amount of light that is then going because the whole thing is the moon goes in front of the sun for a little while, right? Is the amount of light that is then bursting out from behind it intense? I don't know.
I think it's just because you're looking at it longer than you normally would because a thing is happening.
So,
whereas you wouldn't just stare at this. And also maybe it's like getting sunburned on a cloudy day. You would think that because the moon is blocking out part of the sun, it's safe to look at in a way that you wouldn't just look at the normal sun.
Right. From sciencing.com here, I have, why can't you look at the sun during a solar eclipse? So we have here the hazard of sunlight. The sun is basically a huge continuous thermonuclear explosion which produces intense radiation across the spectrum from infrared to ultraviolet light and beyond. Infrared light is absorbed by many materials and is readily converted to heat, while ultraviolet light is the source of sunburn. Boring. Mm-hmm. Okay, the danger of eclipse viewing. Although people have natural aversion to extremely bright light, the temptation to gaze at the sun during the solar eclipse can be overwhelming. Okay, I'm putting this together. You shouldn't look at the fucking sun.
Yes.
You just shouldn't do that. But the sun is so bright, you're like, fuck, I gotta look away. The eclipse sort of dampens it enough that you're like, I'm looking at it. I can look at it. I can see it.
Yeah, it's that danger zone.
But it's still doing the damage.
It's still in there. Still fucking up your eye. I will say that's a fun detail about our world, that there's an object in the sky that lights everything up, but you can't look at it for too long.
It's not just lights everything up, is the only reason we are able to be here.
Yeah, our entire source of energy. Yeah, it's crazy.
And we are only able to live on this earth because we are in the exact okay zone. Just sort of drifting around this fucking thing. It is the most important thing, period.
Can't look at it. Can't look at it for too long.
Or be outside of it, outside in it too much. I have a confession. I'm not a big sunscreen guy.
Me neither. I think sunscreen's a scam.
I kind of do too.
Let me get into what?
Not in a real scientific way. I think you should probably listen to experts on it. But I have that deep down, like, I don't really use sunscreen.
Well, here's the thing. If I think it's not good to get sunburned, like deeply sunburned. They're probably not healthy for you. But humans lived outside forever.
But didn't they also die at like 40?
No.
But like, didn't like what was the life I guess there's a lot of different factors. But what's the life expectancy of like a field worker versus?
I think it depends, but like if you look at some of the data of like indigenous tribes, for example,
sure,
they lived to be 70, 80. There's a lot more infant mortality. There's a lot more death from like disease and accidents and stuff because life is, it's harder. But like, if you kind of survive, like you're not just dropping dead. Like people are really healthy. Actually, is like what they kind of find. Especially if you survive the childhood years or don't die during childbirth, those are two really dangerous times. But like, yeah, people are cruising.
Here's something interesting. I just typed into Google with the really great research. We could, Eric, if we ever wanted to, pivot away from the creepy supernatural element, and it could just be Brian and Eric don't understand.
Yeah, well, I think we're already there.
And we just Google things that we're like, what the fuck is this about?
Sure.
So I typed in, or it could just be Brian and Eric don't belong here in a library. So I typed in, what did people do before sunscreen? And I have here from brushonblock.com, most people use scarves or clothing items to avoid direct sun exposure. Rice, crushed jasmine petals, olive oil, sunflower oil, lupine, pine needles, mud, charcoal, cocoa butter, and burnt almond paste were some of the everyday things that were tried before sunscreen became commercially available. Which leads me to, obviously I'm just Googling here, but that leads me to think like there was an element of like, even if people were living for so long or like things were like quote unquote fine, there was an element of like, this isn't good.
Well, I think probably also what people did was just not be out in the high noon.
Sure.
Like I think the modern thing we do of like, let's just go to the beach and lay directly in the sun at noon is like, probably don't do that.
Right. But what did like farmers do, I guess, which was a hard ass life,
Probably, I don't know. My guess would be like, it's probably like construction workers. Like you probably work early and get done early and probably take a break.
God, you're probably right.
It's like the siesta life,
that makes a lot of sense of, I think it's interesting of, this is only semi-related, but our kind of like condensed sleep schedule, is very much a product of capitalism and our like 9 to 5 existence of you sleep, you go to work. Back before all of that, you went to sleep when it got dark out. So right now, it's 7:00 or about 8:00 when we're recording this. You're asleep. And then you'd get up probably in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah. Are you talking about the whole second sleep thing?
Yeah. And you'd have a meal.
So interesting.
You'd hang out.
Yeah.
And then you'd go back to sleep and you'd wake up when the sun came up.
Yes.
That's interesting. And it's probably to your point, like our quote unquote, our meaning as a human species, our work schedules were probably radically different. Our wake cycles were probably very different.
Well, here's a really interesting stat. So everybody likes to hate on like the Middle Ages as this like people. I feel like people think of the Middle Ages in Western Europe as kind of like Monty Python skit where people are literally living like neck deep in mud and just like dropping dead of the plague. There's a decent argument to be made that a literal medieval peasant, minus the lack of political freedom and just like a day-to-day life, maybe had a better life in some ways than like a modern office dweller.
I mean, maybe.
Like they worked like a third of the year, maybe. Like there's records of their holidays, of feast days, of like the obligatory time. Like they documented it. So they had a lot of time off. You're living in a tight-knit community. You're probably drinking a lot. You're outside. You're hanging with your bros, threshing the corn. That's great. You know?
That reminds me of, you mentioned like a 3-month like work cycle. But that reminds me of a tweet. And once again, I should specify, we're Eric and I are the equivalent of two guys at a bar just being like, I think so. We're spitballing.
Yeah.
Don't take this as I don't think anyone's confusing us.
Exactly. Yeah, I think this all goes without saying. I think we're fine.
But God, what was I fucking thinking of?
3-month work cycle.
Oh, I saw a tweet recently. It was this past summer when it was hot as fucking balls. How like people not realizing here in the West how much of like hot ass country culture of like in like those really hot ass environments, how much of that for survival is just not doing shit.
Oh, dude! When I was living down in Puerto Rico, nobody has AC. Most people don't have AC. That's not a common thing to have, and shit slows down, myself included. Like you just, like your body is just like, I'm not moving fast. Right.
I'm just gonna be a lizard on a rock.
Legitimately, like it's actually fucking crazy because we've built this artificial environment where we're just insulated from every natural rhythm, like temperature fluctuations. Like we have light on command, whatever. And when you're a little exposed to that, you're like, oh, very much constrained by what's happening.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy. Dude, if you think about if we took away AC, how much of modern life like couldn't function? Like you can't exist in a skyscraper without AC.
I'm done.
Think how hot that would get. Like the
Civil War happens and the AC goes, I'm done.
Ooh,
done. I'm just done.
I would live in a river.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Brian and Eric, river folk.
Yeah, we're the river guys.
Don't. I'm assuming all podcasting infrastructure has gone away, and there are warnings to children. Don't go down by the river. There are two guys who are just going to talk at you.
What do we, in that scenario, I feel like, we just hang out by a babbling brook. We're babbling. We've assembled just an audience of rocks, of different sized rocks.
that we've drawn little faces on.
Yeah, we talk at them.
And, that's not that different than right now.
No, it's probably pretty similar. We're mad at one of the rocks. Like, we think one of the rocks is not into it. We just leave it. We don't do anything.
Oh, is this not good enough? Is this not entertaining enough for you? These rocks don't leave fucking reviews on iTunes. I know they're fucking... I see the stats. I'm just going to say, there's a lot of people who listen who don't leave reviews on fucking iTunes. Rocks.
That's right.
I'm looking at you.
Yeah, you can do it. That's the only way to prove you're not a rock, by the way, in my mind.
Yeah, actually.
I can't tell.
Yeah. Yeah, just a fucking rock. Just a fucking rock.
You know what a rock can't do? Leave a sweet review. That's a fact.
That's a fact. Can I... Speaking of rocks, we've talked about robots, killer robots, on this show before. Can I tell you a thing that just happened? You know, CAPTCHA, this thing websites have where you have to it'll be like, here's a bunch of pictures. Pick out all the buses.
I hate it.
I tried to sign up for a website. And I got locked out because I could not solve the CAPTCHA.
Did you fail? What was the CAPTCHA?
It was a lot of, it had hit me with a couple, but the one I remember is all of the coffee Select the pictures with coffee.
Hmm.
But they were all mugs. All 9 images were mugs. Some you could visibly see the coffee. Some you could only see the mug. But like...
Here's my question to you. I feel like this is an interesting personality test. Did you just select every mug, or you just tried to guess which ones had the coffee?
First time I select every single one.
Yeah,
then I tried to
what I would do.
Then I tried to suss out which ones were the right ones. That one didn't get me through, and I gave up.
Wow.
And now I think I might be a robot.
Holy shit. I feel like that's a great angle on some kind of like dystopian scenario where just like your CAPTCHAs keep getting harder and you have to prove, but you can't prove that you're not a robot.
I just wanted to join a fucking website. That's it. That's all I wanted to do.
That's all you want to do. Get in that. I heard a thing that the CAPTCHA is actually also a way of like training AI on image recognition. Is that right?
I have also, I think, heard that. And I think, I imagine that. I assume everything we do on the internet has like 6 ulterior functions, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're just training AIs.
To one day replace us, and maybe they'll do a better job. Let's be real.
Probably. What's your AI take? What's your feeling on AI? Are we fucked?
Yes, obviously, of course. I think we'll be the masters of our own unmaking. I think there's a level of, on a certain level, we will always be a people trying to cut costs, right? Mm-hmm. And if we keep creating AI to do a bunch of things that humans do, we will make ourselves obsolete. We will. And I don't know how we get out of that.
Do you think we can possibly exist in some kind of like optimistic Star Trek future where we just do live in an age of abundance and you don't have to work and that's fine?
No, I don't think
stuff you like.
I don't think we're capable of that.
What do you think happens? We just collapse into like a...
I think class divide will get more and bigger, and like I think it'll be just a more and more of a how dare the have-nots have something that I have don't have that I've perceived of don't have, and I think that will permanently keep us away from a Star Trek future that I would love to live in. Can we just get to the Star Trek future? That'd be. I would love.
Yeah, I'm pro Star Trek future. I feel like that'd be great.
That'd be great.
That'd be nice. I'd cruise around on a ship, hang out in the holodeck.
Man, when are you a Star Trek guy?
My dad is a huge Star Trek guy. I'll tell you a sweet story.
I want to hang out with your dad. Everything you've told me about your dad, it was like, I think I'd be buds with your dad.
He's a fascinating guy. But this was back in the time before nerd shit was like cool and acceptable. And I think he had I don't want to fuck up this story, but basically the gist of it is like, he had a secret stash of Star Trek VHS tapes growing up that he would kind of watch when no one was home so people wouldn't make fun of him. And he found out his mom had the same stash and was also doing the same thing in parallel. And they were 2 closeted nerds living in the same house. Which is the best. I don't know. It's something like that. It's something like that. But no, to answer your question, no, not really a huge Star Trek guy. Kind of never got into it. I kind of like it in theory. Like I like what I know about the world of it.
I kind of was the same of like, I like several of the movies. I like the movies that everybody I've seen. Yes. I've seen most of the movies. I like the ones that people like. I didn't like the ones people don't like. I've seen a lot of the good episodes of all the shows. Gotta say, the new show on Paramount Plus, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I say this as someone who's never been a hardcore Star Trek guy, just a very casual liker. I watched every episode of that show. Really, really like it. Think it's good in like a very classic, the spaceship lands on a planet. There's a problem on the planet. They fix the problem and they get back on the spaceship.
Can I say that's all I want out of a show is
Right?
like a monster of the week. Give me a repeatable format where you
Right?
change something. Give me the monster of the week. Give me the new planet. Give me the new weird thing that's it. Even like a house. Even like a, hey, new patient, weird new disease.
Right.
Let's figure it out.
Just
I
fucking.
love that.
It's just, that's kind of what I think TV should be, not just this like streaming model of like 8-hour movies. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It's very good. I don't remember one of the crucial details of this story, but your father's Star Trek story reminds me of my father-in-law's Star Trek story. He grew up big Star Trek fan, loved Star Trek, never missed it. But in his house, he only had a black and white TV. His cousin had a color TV. And he was going to his cousin's, and he was so excited because he was going to get to watch Star Trek in color. Oh my God, I'm going to get to see Star Trek in color. This is going to be mind-blowing. He's bracing himself for this incredible nerd experience that he's going to have. I forget which president died. I want to say Truman, but I'm not sure that that is correct. But Truman, I'm going to say Truman. Truman died, so there was no Star Trek. It was wall-to-wall coverage about that.
Fucking bullshit. But in color, at least in color.
But it was in color.
That's all you can. That's all you ask for. Oh my God.
It's weird how people had color TVs, and a lot of people still had black and white TVs. Like, there had to be early adopters of the color TVs.
You know what's interesting? I feel like with a lot of technologies, the new thing doesn't supplant the old thing. Like with video games, like there's still a thriving like 16-bit indie gaming scene and shit. Or like board games are more popular than ever. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But black and white TV just was I guess just a worse thing. Everybody just wants it, but there is no like vintage, like it was better without all the colors, like records versus fucking MP3s.
I mean, it's kind of the same as like, you know, no one is like hanging on to their CRTV because it's better, right?
Yeah.
Some people like, all right, asterisk, if you're into the old school video games, the CRTV is better.
Sure.
But I guess it's kind of like the TV model only kind of gets better. My mom tells a story. My mom had a color TV kind of early. Like her family was kind of an early adopter. And my mom tells a story about being on the bus one day. The Wizard of Oz was on TV the night before. And someone was asking on her bus of like, did you watch The Wizard of Oz last night? Because, of course, there were only 3 things to watch on any given night. Did you watch The Wizard of Oz last night? My mom said, she's young, yeah, but I had to go to bed when it turned to color. You know, the good part of Wizard of Oz. But the little girl she was talking to was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What do you mean when it turned to color? Because she had a black and white TV, so it was all black and white.
It does what?
I'm sorry, what?
Excuse me?
Which I'm sure Wizard of Oz was mostly seen in a theater at the time, so like most adults would know that. But like a kid, if that was your only exposure to it.
That's it.
We're 33 minutes in. Should we talk about the blood moon?
I guess.
What were you going to say?
I was going to ask, did you have cable growing up? Was cable a thing for you?
It was on and off. I remember.
Oh, interesting.
I remember having it, and then I remember my dad going, "We don't need it. We don't need it. We're cutting it." So we didn't have it for. It's so hard to parse time for me. I have no idea if we didn't have cable for a couple of months or a couple of years. I truly don't know. I do know my mother at one point was like, I need HGTV. This has to stop.
Why did your dad cut it? Because it was like cutting costs, or like you guys fucked up?
No, it was cutting costs of like, we don't need this.
Sure.
And my father was the big time like fun police of like everyone. We don't need this thing everyone's enjoying.
Yeah, this is a little too much enjoyment in this house. Let's tone it down.
And you've met my dad. He's a sweet guy. He's a nice guy.
Your dad's the best.
But he does have a certain level of like, there's too much fun in here and it has to stop.
That's so funny. He seemed like a fun-loving guy.
He's chilled out much more now than the human being I grew up with.
Yeah.
Can I tell?
I hope. Yeah, do it.
This is completely unrelated to spooky shit, but
that's fine.
This is just a story about my dad.
Story time.
So I did not start drinking until I was 21 years old, maybe a little before 20, which is funny considering how hard I can fucking go now. But we lived in a very strict, like, that is not negotiable in my house growing up, of like, I would be so incredibly dead if, like, not even worth risking. That's how dead I would be. Not that I was invited anywhere where people were drinking, so like the temptation didn't arise that frequently.
Sure.
So years later, I'm at a wedding. And my father is getting drinks for my underage cousin.
Hell yeah.
And I'm watching this happen. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? What the fuck is happening?
Do you think, here's the question for you. Do you think it was the kind of thing it was a rule they expected you to break?
I think so. I think maybe.
Yeah.
I think, because like I extremely followed the rules. My brother Patrick extremely followed the rules. Sean didn't, and Sean was not excommunicated from the family. I do remember after I turned 21, it was a bit of a novelty that I didn't drink when I was younger. So that turned into, after I turned 21, a fun game of Brian, drink this, which I love attention. So I would just drink anything that got put in front of me, which led to multiple nights of me coming home and puking my guts out.
Was it even, I'm just imagining you just drinking, it's not even booze. It's just like paint.
Oh, it was like anything.
Juice.
If you put it in front of me, I would put it into my gob. At one point, there was an invention of a drink called the Brian Miller that involved grain alcohol.
Sure.
But so upon my 6th, 7th, 8th maybe night home, puking my guts out, I remember my mom stomping down the hallway, opening the bathroom door and going, "Why couldn't you figure this out at 16 like everybody else?"
That's the dude. That's the one that is the one drawback.
Right?
Yeah. I think I got drunk for the first time. I think I was like 13, maybe 12.
Wow.
In a swamp.
Wow. Tell me everything.
Behind my friend's house. Well, I mean, how did we even get it? Either it was an older brother, there was a big older brother connection,
sure,
or you could pull the classic move of like, give a weirdo cash outside of a 7-Eleven and have them buy you beer.
Oh, like a thing. I'd be far too afraid to do that.
That was a thing that used to maybe it still happens. I don't know. But like, you do see the movies, and I remember that from my youth of like, you'd kind of like go hang out outside of a 7-Eleven or a liquor store like a weirdo.
I think they cracked down on that. I doubt that happens as frequently as it did back then.
Yeah, I think you probably get in huge trouble for buying underage, because you see signs like don't buy for underage kids. But that was the thing we used to do back in the day. And like older brothers would do it. Like they would just like charge you way too much money and go buy, like take half of it and buy you like an 18-pack or whatever. But yeah, so we just had stupid Bud Lights and we went to the swamp behind my friend's house, and it was 3 of us, and me and my buddy, who's still one of my best friends to this day, got pretty drunk. My buddy, I went back to my friend's house with him. His mom came home and I freaked out and left, and he like threw up on his keyboard in front of her, and she was just like, "Great, this is going well. You're 13, you're in middle school. This is a fucking disaster." And it was the best.
There you go.
It was the greatest.
That reminds me of, so I am not, you talked about the older brother connection. I was not the cool older brother. I was not, I turned 21 and like, I followed the rules and like kind of expected my younger brother to follow the rules. 'Cause God, I was such a little cop. So I was not the cool older brother on that front. So my youngest brother didn't even like come to me didn't even try
Yeah,
me.
he knew.
He knew. So we went to my cousin Megan.
Hell yeah. That's cool.
Trying
cousin Meg.
My cousin Megan. But my cousin Megan ratted him out, came to me and was like, hey, Sean came to me looking for alcohol. And I assume, based on the fact that he came to me instead of you, I shouldn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't do that. Oh, I was such a little Catholic schoolboy, dude.
That is lame as hell.
It's so lame. It's so lame.
You know what's interesting about that, though, is like you weren't a real, at least per your tell, like you weren't a real like goody two shoes, like with school and shit like that.
Nope. I can't. I hated being yelled at. I was not immune to that. Of like, I could break the. I was constantly breaking at the stuff that I felt didn't matter. And then I would kind of find like, as like the structure would crumple of like, oh, that really didn't matter. But like that was a hard line, at least in my perception, to my parents. So I didn't poke at it, you know?
Of what? Of just getting yelled. Like you wouldn't pass the like, this will get you fucking this kind of deal.
Like this is truly important. It's what I was kind of prodding was like, my parents saying, or a teacher saying, like, you can't do this or you have to do this. I'm like, I don't think this is that important to you. And I would kind of prod at that. The drinking and stuff was like, I perceived that as important to them. And I kind of wouldn't like prod at it. I don't know.
Interesting. I remember the first time I ever smoked weed, I freaked out and like told my mom. And my friends were just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's like she didn't even know. It was like days later and I was like, Mom, I need to tell you something. And she was like, and like even she was ashamed of me. She was like, what are you doing? Are you high now? Like, no, it was days ago.
I ever tell you about So we tried to have a fun tradition, my brothers and I, and our significant others, around Christmas time. I
think you told me about this.
I possibly did. So I'll keep it brief. But we tried to start a tradition of like, okay, around Christmas time, we're all here. We'll get stoned in my parents' basement. Which we did one time, 1 year. We had a great time. One of my like cherished family memories was all of us very stoned in my parents' basement. And there was another year, or it might have been the next year. My mom was kind of like, I'm going to hang out. I'm going to stay up. I'm going to hang out. I don't want to go to bed. Let's watch a movie. And we had all done edibles, kind of in anticipation that she would go to bed.
Oh, shit.
So we're sitting
you can't just get off that train. That thing is moving.
No, we did edibles. So, like, it's hitting. So my mom is and I feel bad to this day of, like, my mom's kind of sitting there maybe perceiving we kind of don't want her there because we're all getting high. And so she's like, do you guys want to, like, watch a movie? Like, let's watch It's a Wonderful Life. And we're all like, nope. That's not a good idea.
Do your parents know or care that you smoke weed?
They certainly don't like it. They certainly don't like it. My parents are firmly anti-weed.
Wow.
Like they still, don't get me wrong, they have cop energy of like they are you can hit them with any data you want on legalizing marijuana and it still just comes down to I don't like it. I don't like it.
Don't trust it.
I don't like
it. Sure.
It's some real cop shit.
It is. I mean, it's what I didn't realize. I mean, like because I don't smoke anymore, but I used to smoke back in the day, and all my friends smoke weed, and like I kind of didn't even realize that it's basically just fully legal in New York now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's just like 100% legal because people I knew had just been smoking for so long that kind of like didn't even change, and they had delivery services and shit.
Yeah.
And then it's like I woke up and I was like, oh yeah, it's not even kind of a crime anymore.
No, that's where I was fully an adult. This was semi recently. My parents were having a party, and several of their high school friends were there, and they were talking about marijuana legalization. And I just brought up being stoned one time, and my dad looked at me and went, "Excuse me." And it was just one of those of like, I'm 30 something. It's legal here. It's legal in New York. You have no grounds.
Yeah.
You got no grounds, old man.
That's great. What did he like? Did he take that, or was he like? No?
He kind of had no recourse.
Yeah. That's pretty.
It did upset him, even though he knew he kind of had nowhere to go.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy.
That is crazy. There's new weed technology. My buddy was just telling me about a syrup that's like a THC syrup, and you can just like put it in a drink.
That's fun. Have you ever been to a dispensary?
Yeah.
That was a wild experience. We were visiting, they're not fully in New York yet. There's a couple of places that, don't get me wrong, will sell you THC, but I do not believe it is legal to do that.
No, it super is.
I don't think so, actually. I think they're still kind of working that out. Because we don't. I mean,
I've been to. I was just at one with a friend.
A proper like New York City dispensary.
Yeah,
oh.
They're straight up selling weed.
All right. I could be wrong. Or like the last time I read something could have been inaccurate. But I remember we were in Maine, and they had a proper like very nice building. And my wife and I walked in, and we bought weed, paid for it with a debit card, got a receipt. It was like, this is amazing. Also,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're Googling? I don't think it is. Don't get me wrong, places are, but it is not. I don't think it's legal yet.
Dude, that's so weird. So I don't know New York State legalized recreational marijuana last year, but has yet to allow licensed dispensaries to sell it beyond medical use. I guess you need a card. I guess maybe my buddy has a card.
That makes sense. They're pretty easy to get too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a joke. Yeah, that's so interesting.
We have a like isn't
there a place near you?
In my neighborhood there is a proper like, and we joke about like they're ready to go the second it's okay, but currently it's all CBD stuff. And then I do believe there is I'm not, for how much weed I smoke, I'm not that hobby level like aware of it, but like the details of it, I believe there is something with THC. There's kind of a loophole that places can sell that now, but that is like behind the counter shit.
Interesting. So I guess you can. Do you just need a medical license?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I have a weed guy who is much cheaper than any dispensary I've gone into, so I haven't researched it that much.
So all I know is I was literally, I'm not going to divulge like where it was, but in Queens, just in his shop, just on display, just selling.
I think a lot of places, like I don't know how hard they're cracking down on it is the thing. So like a lot of places are just like, fuck it, let's.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. No, I guess you're right. It's not legal just recreationally, or it is legal recreationally, but you can't sell it.
You can have it. You can possess it. Yeah. You can smoke it. You can't sell it legally.
Yeah.
But like you and I could go smoke a joint on a police station set of steps, and there's nothing we could do. I don't think there are still some restrictions of like you can't smoke in a park. You can't, like, it's basically like alcohol. You got to kind of be chill. Mm-hmm. It's a little more freeform than alcohol, actually. You can't have an open beer on a New York City sidewalk.
Is it like a cigarette? Is it like same level of like, can you smoke a joint anywhere you could smoke a cigarette?
I believe that is the case. Yeah, I believe it's kind of I expect more restrictions are going to come, at least in New York City. But yes, that is my understanding. It is funny of a lot of bars won't allow marijuana smoking. Which makes sense. Like on their patios and stuff, you'll see signs like no weed. Like you can't take up a table and not and like get fucked up and not be purchasing alcohol, you know?
True.
Which makes sense. And I wonder if we'll be seeing more of that, you know?
It will be interesting. It'll be weird to see like what if anything changes as just being high more frequently. Because the difference between being drunk and being high is like you can super be high and just function in your day and be a little more incognito. Whereas like you kind of can't just get wasted and go to work.
No. It's, it's one of the interesting things about weed is I have felt like I can lean into being goofy with it, but I have always had in the back of my head, I could like kind of shut this off if I needed to. I
remember that feeling when I used to smoke as of like, I could be normal. Right. Kind of, but also that was kind of a lie too.
I think so. I think I've also thought that drunk too, incorrectly.
Yeah. I remember when I used to be like very drunk. I used to feel like, do you remember Men in Black, the alien that's controlling the guy? I was like, I'm that guy right now. Like I'm that. That's fine. That part of me is fine. I'm just like it felt like there was a sober core somewhere in my consciousness.
Oh, brother, I miss weed. We're not smoking while my wife is pregnant. And
are you not smoking in solidarity?
Yeah, if I were completely on my own and like not gonna run into her that night, that'd be one thing. But that's not what married life is like.
Sure.
And like it would be it wouldn't be fun to just be smoking by myself. Half the fun is to just have very stupid conversations that we think are very smart. But there's nothing I could imagine being worse than being pregnant, sober, and having your husband on the couch next to you going like, SpongeBob's fucking brilliant, man.
Yeah, that's probably bad. The optics on that probably not great.
No. Let's like break down that joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, don't get me wrong, we will do for hours when that's it. Oh no, we're gonna be weed parents, dude. It's gonna be fucked up.
You definitely will be weed parents.
Definitely.
You will super be weed parents.
Part of me was like, so like the kid will be born and we'll like put this away, right? Like we'll kind of nope. Really like it.
I guess you'll see though. If any instincts like that kick in.
Yeah, I don't know.
When the kids really, like, you might just be like, because the reason I say that is I've had friends who've had kids who stopped smoking because they're like, I just had this paranoid thought of like, what if something happens?
That's what I'm concerned.
And I'm fucking high.
That's what I'm concerned about.
I just never smoked again. I just lost all urge to do it.
Right. I am kind of expecting something like that to happen. What I also know is going to happen is that kid's going to be at their grandparents for a number of days, and I'm going to get fucked up.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm going to fucking eat an entire bowl of Fruity Pebbles in a single sitting.
Now I'm baby.
Eric, we're at 53 minutes and we have not talked about the blood.
And I'll tell you about it. We're not going to talk about the goddamn blood moon.
No, we're not going to do it.
Guys, it's a red moon.
It's a red moon.
It's kind of weird that it happened on an election day.
That can't be good. So I do actually want to spend our last couple of minutes on the blood moon prophecies. That is.
Oh yeah, did you find some good prophecies?
This is just the Wikipedia entry, Blood Moon Prophecy. The Blood Moon Prophecies were a series of prophecies by Christian preachers John Hagee and Mark Blitz related to a series of 4 full moons in 2014 and 2015. The prophecy stated that a tetrad, a series of 4 consecutive lunar eclipses, all total and coinciding on Jewish holidays, with 6 full moons in between and no intervening partial lunar eclipses, which began with the April 24th lunar lunar eclipse was the beginning of the end times, as described in the Bible in the book of Joel, Acts 2:20, and Revelation 6:12. The tetrad ended with the lunar eclipse on September 27th through 28th, 2015. Can you argue the world is ending?
It's a great question.
And like, I don't know, we got another one right now on an election night that I don't feel great about.
I'll say this though. People have misdiagnosed the apocalypse so many times.
That is entirely accurate. And surely throughout human history, especially before we knew what eclipses were, the blood moon would happen, and surely everyone was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah, it's probably pretty scary.
This is it.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're gonna have a signal of an apocalypse, it's a pretty good one. A blood red moon.
Right. That'd be like,
yeah.
Oh, God's pissed.
Yeah, super mad. Or just like, hey, cool red moon day.
What if we went back in time and there was no panic? It was just like, cool.
Yeah, you guys see this sick red moon?
The moon got festive.
Third of the year. We sleep 2 times a night. It's awesome.
Surely back in caveman times, the sun went away and someone was like, well, that shit's over.
Yeah. Hope you guys like the sun. Hope you enjoyed having a son.
That shit's over.
Yeah, I
told
you
guys. We live in
guys.
Feral darkness.
Yeah, and then it comes back out, and that guy's just like a real
whoa!
Yeah.
Surely it took a bit to understand. Do you think we innately understood that cycle, or did it take a little while?
I think that's a great question.
Because I don't think animals are not like consistently. It took us a bit to get to our level, right? Animals, my dog doesn't give a shit. I don't think.
Yeah, they don't notice it. I wonder when that happens in our evolution, that we start noticing and caring about things. I mean, definitely ancient peoples definitely charted and observed.
Right.
Like the movements of stars and the moon and things like that. I don't know. I feel like I have read that there was a sense of like when the sun went away, exactly like you're saying, it's like it wasn't guaranteed that it would come back. That each time it went away, it's like we kind of felt like we had to do something to make sure it came back.
Right.
Like if we fuck this up, Dad might be gone. He's going out for milk. He's never coming home.
Right. And it did every time. Well,
it came back every time.
And then like in the winter, obviously it gets darker for longer periods of time. That does just happen. That's not just daylight savings. That it does get dark.
There is less daylight now.
Right. How we just got through daylight savings. How you doing with that?
I'm fine. I mean, this is the good daylight savings.
Getting the hour back is fun. I do get sick of it getting dark so early.
No, I agree. That's bullshit. I think that's bullshit. Someone had a great observation, which is like, why don't we just move the day based on just sunrise?
Yeah.
You know, like I think daylight savings is dumb.
Yeah, I think it served its purpose. I will say though, there's nothing.
What is its purpose?
It was something about farming at the time.
But like, why wouldn't you just wake up when the sun is up?
Daylight savings purpose. What is daylight savings time? Why do we turn the clocks back? Allows for an extra hour of light. Okay. So basically, I think it was to like when we have less light to like move everything up so that we'd have more in that window. Does that make sense?
I guess so.
It doesn't really to me.
It just like why not just wake up? Like keep the time the same. Just wake up when there's sun.
Right. I think it's a part of our kind of like you talked about earlier, that like capitalist structure which is built with fucking needles and sticks and duct tape.
Sure.
This is lunchtime. This is.
Yeah, we need this structure. We have to change all of time. We can't just say, hey, start an hour. We're just start in the wintertime. We start a little earlier because it gets dark earlier or whatever.
No, that's not how we do things here.
We have to change time.
Eric, I hope this podcast gets to the point where you and I can just decide on a whim. I think it's time to change time.
We're just gonna change, or conversely, just ignore daylight savings. Go through life, never change that clock.
I think that's a good point to leave us on. Eric, do you have any final thoughts on the blood moon, on marijuana, on alcohol, on growing up? What the fuck did we talk about?
I think this was a great moon night. I think it was a solid Brian and Eric moon night. Brian and Eric talked about the moon, and I think we did it.
Brian and Eric talk about the moon. We did it. Hey, I started a Tumblr for us for some reason. briananderic.tumblr.com. That was a mistake. New episodes come out on Wednesdays. Leave a fucking review or something.
I didn't even know Tumblr was still around.
Tumblr's back, baby. International tastemaker Brian Miller has decided it.
I love it.
See you next week, everybody.